Welcome back, OHS iPad Initiative class. We were talking about converse, inverse, and contrapositives just a second ago, and now we got some examples to find those and determine their truth value. So our conditional statement, which is our P implies Q, is if the measure of an angle is 45 degrees, then it is acute. Now the converse, if you remember, is going to flip-flop P and Q. So that means that Q would now imply P. So I've got to put the part that came after the then to now be after the if. So I'm still going to start it with if. And the word it, now we're talking about the angle. So I'm going to change in the word angle for it. So if an angle is acute, then now we need the part that followed the if before. So the measure of the angle is 45 degrees. Is 45 degrees. Alright, and we're supposed to also determine the truth value of this statement. So if an angle is acute, then the measure is 45 degrees. Well, we could have an acute angle that would have a measure of 60 degrees. So it's not necessarily 45 degrees the whole time. So this would have a false truth value to it. Now the inverse. We go back up to the conditional statement, and now we got to negate or give opposite meaning to the hypothesis, which is the part that follows the if, and then the conclusion, which is the part that follows the then. So we're going to put if the measure of an angle is, and now to negate, we're going to slap in the word not 45 degrees. Then we can still use it here, is not, that's the negation, acute. So if the measure of an angle is not 45 degrees, then it is not acute. Alright, well, that's not necessarily true either, because again, the 60 degrees is not 45 degrees, but it is still an acute angle. So we're going to say that this truth value is also false with that counterexample. Now the symbols on this one would be not P implies not Q. And the one that takes a little bit more work is the contrapositive. We still go back up to the original conditional statement, but now I need to flip-flop the conclusion with the hypothesis and also negate both. So we're going to put if an angle is not acute, then the measure of an angle is not 45 degrees. So if an angle is not acute, then the measure of an angle is not 45 degrees. Alright, so not acute would lead us to either the straight angles or the obtuse angles. Well, neither one of those two angles are going to have a 45 degrees. So therefore, this is going to have a truth value to it. Okay? And the symbols for this would be not Q implies not P. Alright, I think we have one more example of this here. So we're supposed to write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive, and then we're supposed to determine the truth value. It says if it is Labor Day, then we are not in school. So that would be a true statement there, because on Labor Day we're not in school. And then the converse of that. So now I need Q implies P, so I need to flip-flop the if and the then parts. So I'd put if we are not in school, then it is Labor Day. So now we need to determine the truth value of that. So if we're not in school, then it is Labor Day. Well, each weekend we're not in school, and each weekend is not Labor Day. So therefore this would have a false truth value. Alright? The inverse. So we go back up to the conditional statement, and now I need to negate both of those things. So the symbols for it would be not P implies not Q. So I need to give opposite meaning here. So I'm going to put if it is not Labor Day, then we are in school. Alright, so if it is not Labor Day, then we are in school. Well, it's not Labor Day every weekend, and we're not in school on the weekends. So again, this would be a false statement. Alright, the contrapositive, remember we flip and negate on the contrapositive. So we're going to have not Q implies not P. So go back up to your original conditional, and we're going to put if we are in school, then it is not Labor Day. Alright, so if we are in school, then it is not Labor Day. Well, that's true, because if we were in school, we're out on Labor Day, so if we're in school, it's definitely not Labor Day. So that would have a truth value to it. And that's how you write the converse, inverse, and contrapositive and determine the truth value. Remember, one counterexample, and it would have to be false. It's a pretty cool looking page right here. That's what the regular class will be doing. We're going to move on though. There's our up one, down ones. Have you earned a box this week? Here's your boxes. Good luck. Alright, this will conclude the videos for section 2.2, conditional statements. So Mr. Lane signing off from OHS High School, room 303.